Get this monitor straight. What's up, YouTube family? Welcome back to the Emperor Atheist channel with your host, the Emperor Atheist. This particular video, I was just actually doing a study on a few things, but I said, man, let me just go ahead and make this video right quick because something popped to my mind. As always. And yes, I still love to feed the trolls. But something popped in my mind, and I was like, well, let me just go ahead and do this video. And the thing that basically popped in my mind was, I said, because people had been asking me this, and well, Emperor Atheist or Alex, those who know me, what made you, being the son of a pastor and grandson of a pastor bishop, what made you just all of a sudden stop believing in God or religion? Well, first of all, I'm gonna answer this question. I didn't just all of a sudden stop. It was a long, hard process. And me being, so I'm going to give my deconversion story real short, because if I just told you everything, this video would probably be like 2 days long. So I'm just going to make it real short. I grew up in a church, a house. My mother and father was very devout Christians. My father being a Baptist minister who attended theological school. My mother being a Seventh-day Adventist. No conflict there. But we went to church probably 2 or 3 times a week. At one point, when I was like 13 years old, I had actually memorized probably over 100 verses in the Bible. I had actually memorized the whole book of Matthew at one point. And this was before I was even in 11th grade. I had memorized the whole book of Matthew. That's how immersed I was into the Bible. Some people I've met over the years, and I've seen people say this in forums and different places, they said a lot that they became atheists or agnostic because of the same reason me, or the same reason, not same reason, but of them being so much immersed into the church or being exposed to by their parents, they were forced to go to church. That's what made them back away from the church. Well, I want to just going to say that's not my case, but I understand what some people say, because I actually still love religion and the Bible, love it in the sense of its philosophy and its study. So that wasn't my reason of getting out of religion, because I was going to church all the time when I was small, and that's not my reason. Some people have those reasons, and I totally understand it. But I got to a point when I was about 25. I had at this particular time I'd already had a degree in theology from Oakwood College. I had my emphasis in philosophy, and then I started attending Moody Bible College. At this particular time, I was getting in trouble and all this stuff. I got incarcerated. Long story short, got out. Wanted to go back and finish my theological degree, but then got caught up in the music industry because I dealt with that for a while. I used to manage a few artists here and there, did a little work around with Interscope, dibbing and dabbing with certain people in the industry. So I just had I was busy doing a lot of different things, but religion was still like a love for me. But what happened was not something that just happened overnight, and some people, you know, even on my videos, I see certain things about how hard it is for people to come out as atheists with their family, or how they have to act, because, you know, they're afraid. And I don't just see this on comments on my videos, but I see it in forums, you know, internet forums, Facebook, etc., etc. So, and I made that statement to say this. So you have to imagine how hard it was for me. My father's now passed away now. My grandfather is too. But my mother's still here. But my deconversion and the reason why I started to reject the whole God hypothesis was a long process. It wasn't something. It wasn't like some people say, well, you become atheist. You know, you hear the saying, you become atheist, just read the Bible. That's true in a lot of ways, because that's basically what eventually led me, because I read the Bible so much, but I read it, I guess, from a point of view of a believer to the point of saying everything in it has to be true. But then eventually my logic and reason kicked in, just all of a sudden, one day, well, I'm not going to say like just one day, but one particular time when I learned about the longer ending of Mark. And I know a lot of you might not be familiar with what I'm talking about. But Mark chapter 9, Mark chapter 16, starting at verse 9 through 20, is considered the longer ending of Mark. And with this particular one, a lot of study Bibles, you can see this, and I spoke about this in other videos. But this is what warranted me to start actually researching. When I found out that this was an added storyline to the original ending, which the earlier manuscripts, and let me clear this up again. There is no original manuscripts of the Bible. No original manuscripts or texts have ever been found, so we don't actually know what the original Mark said, or the original Matthew, if there was one, or of course there was one. We don't know what the original Luke or John says, but just the earliest manuscripts we had only had Mark chapter 16, and it stopped at verse 8. But then you have these later manuscripts, 60, 70, 80, 90 years later, we have these manuscripts that had this longer ending, which tells us, and tell biblical scholars, that somebody else, besides whoever the author of Mark was, who wrote chapters 16, 1 through 8, then somebody else came and added these other 9 through 20 verses. Well, from that particular point, I started actually studying. Then I started finding other things. Then I started finding contradictions that just couldn't be reconciled. And so I want to make a point here. Even after discovering these things, even contradictions, I still would try to use an excuse. My cognitive dissonance was still strong. I still try to use an excuse to say, Jesus still real. He still died for my sins. This is just the devil trying to tell me some crazy shit. And so I still try to defend these things for years and years and years. Then eventually, I basically, make a long story short, like I said, I deconverted to Islam. I went to Islam because I felt like, well, all the things I'm finding in Christianity, with Islam, I still wanted to cling to some type of religious bullshit. So I said, well, Islam got to be better. So I even dipped and dabbed in Black Hebrewism. Ben Ami Israel, I started getting off into his books and met a couple of his brothers. You know, I've read so many books and got off into so many different things. And but eventually, like I said, I took my Shahadatan. That's to say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. That bullshit there. It means that there's no God but Allah. Muhammad is his messenger. You take this Shahada. This is how you come into the fold of Islam. You learn your Salah, all these different things. Well, it was easy for me to get off in Islam because I was so well learned into the Bible. I'd already started studying and understanding Greek grammar. I was teaching Hebrew at the time, matter of fact. I understood Greek, syntax, and all these different things. So it was easy for me to learn the Arabic and pick up on it, learn the alphabets. I started getting off into Arabic grammar. I read the whole Quran, not in its English Yusuf Ali version, any of the other versions. I've actually read the whole Quran from Surah Al-Fatiha to Surah Al-Nas in the Arabic, what they call it, the Arabic language. So that's what a lot of Muslims say. Well, you haven't read the Quran until you read it in this Arabic form, pure form. Well, I couldn't find out that shit wasn't pure either. And a lot of things in the Quran were just copycat Christian Apocrypha. But so I went through these different phases, and this is what I'm explaining these phases. From Christianity to Black Hebrew Israelite to Islam, and these particular things molded me and shaped me in different ways. The different worldviews through religion, through religious lenses. Through a Christian, you know, as a Christian, and I learned these things, you see the world with a different lens. Then when I came into this knowledge of the Black Hebrews, of Ben Ami Israel and Yahweh Ben Yahweh, these different things, I seen life through a whole nother lens. And it was like, wow. You know, it was more of a thing like, man, this is different. I should have been got off into this. Then through Islam, you see life through a whole nother lens. Religion gives you different facets to look at. So this is why I never say religion is bad or totally 100% bad, but it's fucked up to the point of a brainwashing, indoctrination. That is not a good thing. So eventually, I studied Islam, and I always still kept my Bible close by. I still always read my Bible. And eventually, when I started, because I've always been a researcher, I've always been curious, when I started actually studying the history of Islam and then learning about how the connection of Islam and the Catholic Church, the connection of Islam ancient Christian apocrypha and ancient Jewish traditions like Talmudic traditions, the Mishnah, and all of these stolen stories that Prophet Muhammad used and put in his Quran. It just took me back to Christianity, to the point of actually going back into it again and thinking about this God. Like, wow, how could this one God have so many things or people confused or lying about this particular message? All of these supposed to be these Abrahamic religions, but why is there so much damn confusion? So in retrospect, what I did, I became agnostic. So I didn't jump straight from Christian to atheist. No. I went from Christianity to Hebrew Israelite to Islam to agnosticism. So at this particular time, I was just like, well, I don't know about the Jesus thing. I think that's bullshit. The Muhammad thing is definitely bullshit. I think I'm just going to step back. I don't even know about the God thing right now, because just things around me, the world, period. And I always thought about things like, if there's a God, an all-loving God, an omnibenevolent God, then why does he allow so much suffering? Why does he allow people to kill people? Why does he allow little girls to get raped, children to get molested? But he got the power to stop these things. So I've always thought about these things. But like I said, being a religious person, you're going to defend it. You want to defend something that you've been indoctrinated with, and that's a poison. That's a poison that can't be topped. When you refuse to recognize reason and logic because of something, a book that you've been indoctrinated with from a child, you refuse to just wake the fuck up and say, man, this shit don't make no sense. And when you finally take that step to say, man, this shit is bullshit, it's like a whole load comes off you, man. It's like your spirit is really renewed, you know. It reminds me of a verse in the Bible. It says, it talks about the renewal of the mind. You know, it's a very popular verse. And it talks about renewing of the spirit. But it says to actually, basically what this verse is saying, to actually renew yourself, you got to transform your way of thinking. You know, the renewal of the mind, you got to make it brand new. You got to start thinking and get out from under these bullshit concepts and religious and all these things. And this is a biblical verse, but it makes a whole bunch of sense. You have to renew your mind. You have to actually cleanse it out. You have to deprogram yourself of all the bullshit you've been taught, everything you've been taught, and be critical of everything you accept, all the way down to atheism. Even though atheism is not a belief or it's not a religion, even as an atheist, I am still critical of what if a God, what if, that's the question, what if a God may exist? Although if a God exists, and like I always tell people, the stance of an atheist is not that we know there's no such thing as a God. We don't know. We just reject the hypothesis that there is a God. But as a critical thinking atheist, we still be like, well, there may be a possibility of some type of deity. And when I take that position, I basically take the position as a deist. D-E-I-S-T, not a theist. I'll never be a theist again. That's the most illogical stance to ever take. You know it's old saying, never say never. Well, damn it, I'm going to say never on that. But when I speak about the what if, when I say what if there's a deity that exists, then like I said, I take the deist position on that, because the deists believe that there was this creator God in the beginning, right? And what this creator God did, he just started everything, the Big Bang or whatever, and then he just backed the fuck up. You have nothing to do with man affairs. He has nothing to do with decisions you make. There's no such thing as no fucking free will. There's no hellfire. There's no fucking heaven, pearly gates and streets of gold, none of that dumb fantasy shit. It's just this deity that created and backed up, and man is on his own. This is the view of the deists. Then you have the pantheist view, of course. You have other different views that make much more sense to me than the theistic view of the Abrahamic religions. Make much more sense, because you look at the Bible and the Quran, you look at this deity who is involved in man's life, who care about, you having sex, who care about fornication, who kills people for picking up sticks on a damn Saturday. I mean, it's ignorant to believe in shit like this. To believe in a God who claims to be omnibenevolent, omnipotent, or omniscient, all powerful, and would be so petty as to do the things that the God of the Bible and the Quran do. So that's a position I would take on my what if. But I am atheist. I'm a full-blown atheist. But this is the point, and this is what I try to explain to people. We have no claim as atheists. We don't claim that we know anything. The only thing we claim is a number zero. And I've made that point a lot of times. We claim number zero because we have zero claims. We just reject the idea of a God. And what we do, I had somebody ask me, well, can you try to convince me to be atheist? It's not my job to convince you to be atheist. Only thing I try to do with this channel and with my books and with my engagements with people is try to make people think. I'm not trying to convert you or to make you an atheist. If you want to stay in religion and believe in what you want to believe in, that's cool. That's cool with me, but at least be open-minded about it. Be open-minded to the point that you could be wrong. I don't care how much study you're doing, what theology school you're going to, how much you love it, because I love the Bible too. I studied it. I studied it with vigor. I studied it strongly. But I don't care how much love you have for it. You should have enough non-bias to back up and say, well, this could be wrong. Let me check this out. Or let me listen to some reason over here. Or let me listen to some logic over here. And this is what religious people can't do. Because what I've learned from my experience, I think the indoctrination of religion is a poison. I think it's a disease. And my main stance against religion is basically not to force it on us. And what do I mean by force it on us? By way of politics or by way of school, trying to force your ideas of creationism into the school. If you say, oh, well, emperors, they teach an evolution in the school. Okay. I think evolution is great to be taught in school because it's actual facts to evolution. Now, if you can show where creationism has facts, that some God came down and created Adam and Eve, then surely we should be teaching that in school too. But don't tell me that evolution shouldn't be taught in school just because you don't like it or you think it is tearing down the foundation of your religious belief. I'm sorry, you got to come with something better than that. And that's just not the case. So that's particularly my story. And this is particularly why I do what I do, and that's why I'm going to keep doing what I do, and just to get some logic out there, just to get some things across to people to make them think. And you know, I'm sure it's a lot of people with my story. You know what I mean? People that have left religion because probably of the same reasons I left, but a lot of people left for different reasons. Everybody don't have the same story, so I wanted to tell my story and put my story out there. It's a nice little day out here, man. Hope y'all enjoying y'all day. I'm Atheist. I'm out. Peace.